I hate when he hugs me. She said it like she was ordering dessert. No hesitation. No shame. No whisper. Just said it. Out loud. In public. To someone else. She didn't know I heard her. But I did. It was supposed to be a celebration. The kind where you book the nice restaurant a week in advance and iron your only good shirt. The kind where the wine is already on the table when you arrive and the waiter calls you sir, like it means something. I had just come back from the bathroom. I hadn't even sat down yet. I was behind her, just out of sight, adjusting my stupid belt because it always digs into my gut when I sit for too long. I heard her lean in across the table and laugh. Soft, cruel laughter. Then those words. I hate when he hugs me. It's like being wrapped in a mistake. Wrapped in a mistake. The candle on the table flickered when I sat down. The little flame sputtered once and then died. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but she was too busy sipping wine and pretending the universe didn't just shatter across my ribs. I didn't say anything. I smiled. I asked about her risotto. She talked. I nodded. I chewed. It tasted like ash. All I could hear was that sentence, playing on repeat, like a song you hate but can't escape. I hugged her every morning, every night, after every fight, every mundane moment. I thought hugs were my love language. I thought they were ours. Apparently, they were just my delusion. The waiter asked if we were celebrating anything. I said anniversary. He smiled. She smiled. We both lied. When we got home, she went straight to bed. I stood in the kitchen for a long time staring at the fridge. Not crying. Not moving. Just standing. Like if I stood still long enough, I'd vanish. That night, I didn't hug her. And for the first time in years. She didn't ask why. She didn't notice when I started leaving earlier for work. Not once. I used to linger in the mornings, slice her fruit, pour her coffee, heat her car if it was under 40 degrees. I used to wait for her goodbye kiss, even when she was late. It was routine, not romance. Like clockwork. Sad, broken clockwork. But the day after the restaurant, I didn't do any of it. I left without a word. No note. No banana sliced into quarters like she liked it. No reminder text about her dentist appointment. Just silence. I thought she'd text me, maybe ask if I was okay. She didn't. Instead, at 10:04 a.m., she posted an Instagram story. A selfie in the car, latte in hand, captioned, "Chasing Dreams Hot Beverage Sparkles." It had a sparkly filter. I wasn't tagged. That was the moment I realized something I never wanted to admit. She wasn't just done hugging me. She was done seeing me. So I started small. I deleted our Spotify playlists. The shared ones. The ones I made for her birthdays, anniversaries, that weekend trip to Colorado she cried on because I forgot the hiking permits. I didn't just delete them. I removed myself from the account entirely. She wouldn't notice. She hadn't added a song in over a year. I started stacking books I loved into boxes in the garage. One a day? Quietly. Like I was returning parts of myself to storage. Like I was preparing for a departure I hadn't told anyone about, not even myself. And still, she noticed nothing. But the real shift? It came when I stopped hugging her at all. She used to sigh when I hugged her, not in a romantic way. More like I was interrupting her flow. But when I stopped, something strange happened. She got lighter. More cheerful. She started humming in the kitchen. Her posture changed. She moved around the house like she was finally breathing air that had been missing for years. It hit me then. My love wasn't just unwanted. It was a burden. I was suffocating her, with kindness, with softness, with every fragile attempt to hold together something that had already turned to dust. One night, I watched her from the doorway as she curled up on the couch, wine glass in one hand, her phone lighting up her face. She was smiling at something. Not laughing, just that quiet, private smirk she never gave me anymore. She didn't hear me walk away. She didn't even glance up. That night, I ordered a storage unit online. Month to month. Climate controlled. 28 miles from home. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew I had to start doing something. Because staying here, beside a woman who flinched at my touch and bloomed in my absence, that wasn't marriage. That was a hostage situation I'd volunteered for. And the door was open. The first time I slid open my nightstand and took something out with no intention of putting it back, my hands shook. It wasn't dramatic, just a couple of cufflinks I hadn't worn since her cousin's wedding. They didn't mean much, but they were mine, one of the few things that still felt like mine. I dropped them into a shoebox and closed the drawer as quietly as I could, like she might come around the corner and catch me in the act of what? Preparing my own escape? Planning to vanish like a coward? Even I didn't have the courage to name it yet. It became a ritual. Every few days, I'd take something small. A book, a t-shirt she hated, a photo frame that still held a picture of my dog from before we got married. Things she wouldn't notice were missing because they were tied to me, not us. I'd carry them to my car when I left for work, tuck them into the trunk beneath grocery bags, and drive them out to the storage unit. It was like bleeding slowly instead of cutting all at once. What's strange is, she seemed happier the more I removed myself, as if my presence had been the weight holding her down, and now that I was chipping myself away, she could finally breathe. She laughed more freely when she got calls at night. She sang along to music when she thought I couldn't hear her. And one evening, as I carried another hidden box into the garage, I heard her voice through the living room speakerphone. "Yeah, it's better now," she said, her tone light, relieved. "He doesn't cling anymore. Honestly, I think he's finally learning. Maybe it won't be so bad." I stood frozen in the dark, staring at the outline of the box in my hands. Learning what? Learning not to exist? Learning how to disappear politely? The worst part wasn't even her words. It was the pause afterward, the silence before she added, with the faintest chuckle, "Anyway, you know what it means. I can finally start thinking about us without feeling guilty." I pressed my palm over my mouth to keep from making a sound. The box slid from my grip onto the concrete floor, but she didn't hear it over her own laughter. My heart felt like it had been ripped out, but instead of anger, all I felt was shame. Shame that I had given so much, hugged so much, cared so much, only to become a shadow applauded for fading away. That night, I lay awake long after she had gone to bed, listening to her steady breathing. I wanted to shake her awake and scream, demand to know who us was, what she meant, whether this whole marriage had been just a placeholder until something better came along. But I didn't. I never do. That's who I am. The man who swallows his questions because he's too afraid of the answers. And then, around 2 a.m., I heard it, her phone buzzing softly on the nightstand. One new voicemail. She rolled over, half asleep, and mumbled, "I'll check it later." But I was wide awake. I watched the screen light up, and the preview line chilled me. Saved message from unknown. I didn't listen to it that night. I didn't dare. But I couldn't stop staring at that glowing notification until the screen went black again. A voicemail from someone she hadn't saved as a contact. Someone who called her in the middle of the night. The next morning, she got ready for work and left like nothing had happened. She didn't even glance at me as she walked out the door. And the moment I heard her car pull out of the driveway, I sat on the edge of the bed, picked up her phone, and pressed play. What I heard in that voicemail is the moment my plan stopped being about quiet removal. It became something else entirely. The moment my thumb hovered over that play button, I hesitated. Not because I was afraid of what I'd hear, though I was, but because I knew I'd never be able to pretend again. There's a line between suspicion and confirmation, and once you cross it, there's no going back to the version of yourself who still hoped, still believed, still hugged her like it meant something. But I pressed play anyway. There was a pause at the beginning, a long one, then a voice, male, low, casual, confident in that way that makes your skin crawl when it doesn't belong in your life. "Hey, just wanted to say last night was, well, it was stupid of us, but also kind of perfect. You smelled like lavender, like always. Made it hard not to forget the rules. I know you're probably laying next to him right now, pretending to dream, but I figured I'd leave this before you deleted me again. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Same place. Don't be late." He ended it with a chuckle. Not mocking, not mean, just intimate, familiar. I sat there, phone still warm in my hand, heart in my throat. My ears were ringing, like I'd been slapped by the truth too hard to process it all at once. I played it again, just to be sure I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't. Lavender. She wore the same lotion to bed every night. I used to love the smell. Now it made me want to claw at my skin. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't even cry. I just sat. For a long time. It wasn't just that she'd cheated. It wasn't even that she was still doing it, actively lying to my face, to our home, to everything we'd built. It was the casualness, the ease. Like betraying me was just part of her weekly schedule, somewhere between Pilates and grocery shopping. I spent the rest of that day walking in circles. I didn't go to work. I drove to the lake and just stared at the water. My hands kept gripping the steering wheel like it might anchor me to something. I watched couples walk their dogs. A woman fed ducks with her toddler. The world kept turning, and I was sitting inside a broken timeline where my marriage had been swapped out for a performance I didn't audition for. When I got home that evening, she was already there, fresh out of the shower, robe tied too tightly, her hair up in a way that used to drive me crazy. She kissed my cheek, out of habit, not love, and went to the kitchen. I followed her, not saying a word. She poured wine. She asked about my day. I said it was fine. She smiled. I smiled. And all I could think about was how she had no idea I knew. And I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. No. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. That's what she expected. Emotional wreckage, tears, shouting, pathetic apologies for not being enough. But I'd already done that in my head 1,000 times. It had gotten me nothing. Instead, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. I started paying attention. Because now I needed to know everything. Where she went. When she smiled. Who she texted. What she deleted. How often she lied without blinking. And most importantly, what she feared losing the most. Because whatever that was, I was going to take it with me when I left. After the voicemail, everything looked different. Not just her. The house. The routine. Even my own reflection. I started seeing our life as if I was someone else walking through it. A stranger touring the ruins of a marriage long abandoned. I watched her stir her coffee with the same spoon she always used, the one with the little bend in the handle, and I wondered how many lies she'd poured into that mug while I stood in the same kitchen smiling like a fool. Thursday became a date burned into my brain. He said, same place. Don't be late. So I waited. I paid attention. And for the first time in years, I realized how little I actually knew about the details of her days. She told me she had a networking event at a winery out in Brookline. Women only, she said. You wouldn't survive the rows and gossip. She laughed, waving her hand like it was nothing. I nodded. I even helped pick out her dress. She chose the navy one with the slit in the side, the one I once said made her look like power and grace had a baby. She didn't ask me how I looked. She didn't notice I wasn't smiling. By the time she left, I had already made up my mind. I followed her. It wasn't hard. She always used the same route. She didn't check her mirrors. She trusted too easily, or maybe she just assumed I'd never have the spine to follow her, even if I suspected something. She didn't go to Brookline. She drove to a small apartment complex on the west side of town, the kind that looks clean from far away but is cracked up close. She parked without hesitation, walked inside Building C, and didn't look back. I waited 15 minutes, then 20. At 32 minutes, I stepped out of my car and walked to the building like I belonged there. My heart was punching holes through my chest. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't a man built for confrontation. I was the kind of man who left good reviews on eBay. But I had to see it. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't need to. I just walked past the building, casual, glancing up. There she was. Second floor. Curtains slightly open. She wasn't alone. He looked younger. Maybe 10 years. Balding, but muscular in that gym rat kind of way. She laughed at something he said, wine glass in hand. He touched her wrist. She didn't pull away. They weren't kissing. They didn't have to be. It was the kind of comfort that doesn't come from one mistake. It came from repetition, familiarity, muscle memory. I walked away before I vomited. I didn't drive home. I drove to my storage unit instead. I opened the door, stared at the sad little pile of boxes I'd built like a shelter, and for the first time in this entire quiet disaster, I let myself fall apart. No noise. Just shaking. Gripping the sides of my own box like I could hold myself together. What hurt more than anything wasn't that she'd cheated. It wasn't even that she had lied. It was that this was who she risked it all for. Someone ordinary. Someone replaceable. Not a billionaire. Not a movie star. Just some guy with a cheap apartment and a wine glass that wasn't even his. And yet, she lit up for him. She used to light up for me. I stayed in that unit for hours. I made a list, an actual list, of everything I had done for her in our marriage. Everything I had forgiven. Everything I had sacrificed. Then I made a second list, what she had done in return. That second list was short. And at the bottom of it, I wrote something I hadn't allowed myself to admit until that very moment. She doesn't love me anymore, but she still loves my stability. That's when the shift happened. That's when my pain turned into clarity. Because I finally realized the only reason she hadn't left me yet was because she still needed me. But I wasn't going to be needed anymore. I was going to vanish in a way she wouldn't see coming. Not with a fight, not with begging, not with tears, but with quiet, calculated distance. She hated my hugs? Good. She wouldn't have to suffer another one. Once I made peace with the fact that she wasn't mine anymore, I thought the worst was over. Painful acceptance, that's what I called it in my head. I told myself that if she wanted some sweaty gym rat with a second-floor apartment, then fine. Let her have him. I would just quietly exit, like a background character slipping out before the credits roll. But I didn't realize the affair wasn't just about desire. It was about resources. About me. It happened one Saturday morning, the kind of morning where the air feels stale because no one opened a window. She was still asleep, her phone charging by the bed. I wasn't even snooping this time. I was paying bills online. My account looked lighter. Too light. At first, I thought it was me being forgetful, maybe a subscription I forgot to cancel or some hidden late fee. But then I saw it. A transfer. Not small. Not subtle. $2,000, pulled straight from our joint account. Not once. 3 times. Spread across the last 2 months. The name tied to the transfers wasn't hers. It wasn't family. It wasn't a company. It was a name I didn't recognize, just initials and a generic banking ID. But the timing lined up perfectly with her networking nights. Every time she was out late, every time she came home glowing and humming, there was a withdrawal in the account. That was when the bottom dropped out of my stomach. She wasn't just betraying me with her body or her heart. She was betraying me with my money. The money I saved from fixing clocks and tightening my belt, from saying no to vacations, from working weekends while she pretended online shopping was therapy. She wasn't leaving me because she didn't need me. She was keeping me because I was financing her double life. I sat there staring at the bank statement, my hands shaking so bad I nearly spilled coffee on the keyboard. My first instinct was to confront her, to shake her awake and demand answers. But then I imagined it. Her rolling her eyes, twisting her words, telling me I was paranoid or controlling. She'd make me the villain for looking. She'd twist it until I was the one apologizing. She was good at that. Too good. So instead, I printed the statements, slipped them into a folder, and tucked the folder under the pile of boxes in my storage unit. It felt like evidence. It felt like the kind of thing a detective would keep, except the only person I was trying to prove anything to was myself. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that the quiet death of my marriage wasn't in my head. That evening, she was especially affectionate. She asked if I wanted to order takeout, even rubbed my shoulders while I scrolled through the menu. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt sick. Because now I knew. Her kindness wasn't kindness at all. It was guilt management. A cover-up. Later, when she stepped into the shower, I sat on the edge of the bed and thought about the man in the voicemail. I thought about the wine glass in his hand and her laugh through that curtain. And I realized what those transfers probably meant. She wasn't just sneaking around. She was investing in him, paying his rent, maybe his car, maybe his future. She was building a life with him using my savings, brick by brick, while I quietly folded her pajamas and sliced her fruit. That night, I made another decision. One that scared me as much as it thrilled me. I was done just removing myself piece by piece. Now, I was going to start removing her safety net. Because if she thought she could hate my hugs, spit on my love, and still live off the foundation I built for us, then she had no idea what it really meant for me to leave. And when I left, I wouldn't just be gone. I'd take everything she thought she could count on. It started with the smallest cut. I logged into the joint bank account, the same one we'd used since year 3 of the marriage, and quietly disconnected her credit card notifications. Not canceled, not frozen, just silenced. I didn't want her to know I was watching. I wanted her to believe she was still operating under radar, that I was still the docile, oblivious husband she had always assumed I was. The next day, I opened a new personal account. Different bank, different app, different everything. I set up automatic deposits to the new one and reduced what went into the joint account by 70%. I figured she wouldn't notice right away. Her eyes never landed on statements unless the spa denied a charge. And I was right. Days passed. She kept ordering groceries, makeup, whatever influencer nonsense had found its way onto her feed. Not a word. Not a question. It felt powerful. Not in a cruel way, but like I was finally standing on my own feet after kneeling for so long I forgot what height was. Every dollar I moved felt like reclaiming a piece of my spine. But I didn't stop at the money. I started copying documents. Insurance policies, tax returns, the mortgage agreement she never read because she trusted me to handle that boring stuff. I scanned them, uploaded them to a private cloud account, and printed hard copies that I sealed inside an envelope and stored at the unit. It felt like building a survival pack before a storm. Only I wasn't just preparing to survive. I was planning to walk straight into the chaos and come out the other side clean. She still hadn't noticed. Until the phone bill. It was always under my name. Always set to auto-pay. But this time, I turned off auto-pay. Just once. Just enough to generate a failed payment notice. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I wanted her to feel a hiccup. To feel the tremor before the earthquake. But I didn't expect the reaction I got. 3 days later, she stormed into the kitchen holding her phone like it was a dead bird. "Why is my line disconnected?" she snapped. "I have an important call today." I kept my face straight. "Weird. Maybe a billing issue. I'll check." She stared at me. Not with suspicion. Not yet. More like I was a mechanic who'd messed up her engine. Annoyed. Inconvenienced. But not threatened. I fixed it, of course. Turned autopay back on. Apologized like it was an honest mistake. But I saw the flicker in her eyes. The tiny twitch that said, something doesn't feel right. That was the first sign I was losing the element of surprise. So I backed off. Temporarily. But then something happened I didn't expect. Something that hit me harder than all her lies combined. I came home 2 days later to find her sitting on the couch, laptop open, a man's voice echoing through the speakers. Not a movie. Not a podcast. A Zoom call. She didn't hear me come in. I stood just inside the hallway, listening, heart in my throat. The voice was familiar, too familiar. It was his voice, the man from the voicemail. "So if you're serious about it, we need to figure out the timeline," he was saying. "You told me you'd be ready by next month. I'm not asking you to rush, but I'm not going to wait forever either." She chewed on her fingernail, nodded. I know. It's just, he's been weird lately. Quiet. Like observant. I think he suspects something." "Then you need to accelerate it," he replied, his tone colder. "You said you could get access to the equity. Has that changed?" "No," she said quickly. "No, I just need to time it right. He's not confrontational, he won't fight. He'll just leave if I give him a reason." The call disconnected a few minutes later. She closed her laptop and went straight to the bathroom. I stood there, invisible, listening to the water run, her humming softly over the sound of the sink. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just a betrayal of love, or trust, or loyalty. It was a setup. She was planning to push me out. Gently, legally. Probably after transferring every cent she could squeeze from the house, the accounts, maybe even the business loan I took out in both our names. She was going to smile while she gutted me, then vanish into a new life with him. I could almost hear the stories she'd tell people. He just wasn't enough. He didn't fight for me. She was right. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to beat her to the punch. The day I left, it rained. Not hard. Just enough to make the streets shimmer. The kind of rain that doesn't ruin anything, but somehow feels like permission to start over. She was out when I packed the last of my things. A work brunch, supposedly. I didn't ask where. I didn't care. Her lies had become so polished they no longer stung. They were just white noise in a life I had already muted. I didn't write a note. No dramatic goodbye. No accusations or confessions. I didn't need to explain what she already knew and had chosen to ignore. Instead, I left one single thing on the kitchen counter. A key. My key. I slid it beneath the salt shaker she never used, but insisted on keeping for aesthetic balance. Funny how everything in her life had to look just right, even if none of it was real. I moved into a one-bedroom above a bakery. The kind of place that smells like cinnamon at 6 a.m. and makes you believe that even burnt-out men with broken hearts can have soft mornings. The walls were thin, and the heater clanked like an old man coughing, but it was mine. Every inch of it. There was no lavender scent in the air, no wine glasses left unwashed, no second toothbrush waiting for someone who had already mentally packed their bags. I got a dog. A rescue mutt with a crooked ear and eyes that looked like he'd seen some things too. I named him Marvin, after the jazz musician no one plays anymore, but should. Marvin didn't care that I wasn't a man's man. He didn't care that I liked folding laundry more than watching sports. He didn't flinch when I hugged him. In fact, he leaned into it. A month after I left, she texted me. Just one sentence. "Did you seriously just disappear?" I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. Not because I wanted to hurt her. But because I finally understood something I'd never allowed myself to believe before. I mattered. My time. My love. My effort. It wasn't worthless just because someone else failed to cherish it. I spent years pouring myself into a hollow well, hoping it would echo back something beautiful. All it ever gave me was silence. And now? Now I was learning the joy of hearing my own voice again. I started clock repair again, but this time on my terms. I taught a class at the community center, mostly to retirees, and one high school girl who swore she wanted to bring analog back. I smiled more. I slept through the night. I stopped checking my phone for voicemails that were never meant for me. And here's the thing no one tells you about leaving quietly. There's power in it. Not petty, vengeful power. Real power. The kind that comes from reclaiming your dignity without having to destroy someone else's. I don't know if she's still with him. I don't care. Maybe she got everything she wanted. Maybe she didn't. But I got something better than revenge. I got peace. And I'll tell you what I've learned. Some people hate your hugs because they don't know how to be held. But that doesn't mean you stop hugging. It just means you save that warmth for someone or something that doesn't shrink from it. And on quiet nights now, when Marvin curls up beside me and the apartment hums like a lullaby, I wrap my arms around myself. Just for a second. Just to remember. I was never the mistake. She just didn't know how lucky she was to be loved that deeply. But I do now. And I'll never forget it again.